As more and more school districts figure out how to approach the new school year, be it keeping the kids at home through the fall or until we meet those state benchmarks or doing a hybrid learning pattern, parents are having to figure out how to homeschool. And there are some ways that can make it just a little bit easier on your family. So Lizzie Severson is a second grade teacher for Great Hearts Archway in Glendale. Thanks so much for joining us, Lizzie.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So let's start with that learning space, because I know people, since they're using their laptops, they've been in the kitchen, the living room, the kids' room. How important is it, though, to have a designated learning space?
Absolutely. So just like you would for work, when you have a designated space, it gets you in the right mindset and in the right space where you can focus and limit those distractions, and also making it consistent makes you feel like when you walk into that space, now it's time to focus, now it's time to work. So just like you would for work, it's really important that you set up that same environment for your students so that they're in that school mindset and they know that it's time to focus and learn.
Yeah, definitely. I think for the elementary aged kids too, if it looks too much like home, they think it's home and they get to cut loose rather than focus. How about scheduling and keeping a schedule? I know schools have sent out the student schedules, but there are a lot of different breaks built in too.
Yes. So at school, when we have breaks built in, it's a time for students to get a snack and to get some of their wiggles out so that when it's time to go back into that learning environment, they're ready to be focused and they feel full, they feel ready to go. So at home, keeping a schedule consistent, just like you would during the school year, is really important. So making sure your students are going to bed early and getting a good night's sleep so that they have energy the next day. One of my teammates, Mrs. Blake, has recommended packing lunches the night before, just like she would for school, so that during the day when it's time for lunch break, their lunch is already ready to go, and then students feel like they can get into that routine and that schedule. And also posting it where they can see it, so that if they look at the clock and they say, oh, I only have 5 more minutes until the next break, it can help them persevere through that time and feel like they can get through those next 5 minutes, that a break is coming up soon.
Those are actually really great tips, especially with the lunch, because we're spending more time at home, all grade levels, on their computers. Do we have to think a little bit differently about screen time and when they're off the school clock?
Yes. So being on the screen is really hard all day, especially for those little minds. So if you're able to limit the screen time outside of school, that would be really helpful so that they know when they're at the screen, it's time to focus. And then their eyes won't get tired when they're looking at the screen. So finding activities like maybe helping clean up in the house. I know it's a little bit warm right now to play outside, but finding things that they can build, with math, let's go count some objects, and finding ways to incorporate activities that don't involve a screen would be really helpful to try to keep that focus and attention when it is time for class.
Now, at some point, students will go back into the classroom. So is there anything that we can be doing to prepare them for that? Because even though that's what they've always been used to, this has been a big, long change. So how do we practice? What do we do?
That's a great question, because that transition will be really tough when it's time to come back. So I think treating the school year, even when it's at home, as much as school as you can. So getting those good nights of sleep, getting dressed and ready before class, having those snacks and lunches ready. I know some parents say that their kids snacks all the time at home during homeschool, and at school we only have a couple of snack breaks. So getting your student to have a school stomach on school days and limiting those snacks to just our break times can help keep it more consistent, so that when we do transition back into the classroom, they're used to getting up early, they're used to going to bed at a certain time and going through their morning routine. So that way it still feels like they have a schedule and a routine, and it should hopefully make that transition a little bit easier for everyone.
And they know that it is going to be time to get out of the pajamas at some
Yes.
point, that we don't wear them all the time.
Right.
Lizzie,
Yes.
it's such great advice, and hopefully this eases some of the sting and the anxiety that I know parents are experiencing right now. So we really appreciate your advice.
Absolutely.